Last one, Dana White did an interview with ESPN Plus. This was for ESPN Plus subscribers. Kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Laura Sanko was, I guess, the host or the person feeding him the questions. And very interesting timing on this one, coming just a couple days after the whole Francis Ngannou not wrapping the belt around him, not being at the post-fight press conference debacle. That's still ongoing. But this happened, I think it was like an hour of Dana answering questions. Off the top, did you watch the interview, Dominic? And if so, what was kind of your big takeaway from it?
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch the full thing, but I saw the Francis portion, right? And let's make it clear, this question was never brought up by Laura. And I know for a fact that ESPN Plus subscribers were sending in this question. They were choosing
the only question.
Yes, exactly. They were choosing not to present it to Dana. I would bet a lot of money on that. But Dana brought it up himself to kind of clear the air, quote unquote, is what he said. And he said, I was with him all week. I got to talk to him. I shook his hand. I was at the weigh-ins, yada, yada, yada. Something came up backstage right after the co-main event. I had to be back there. I couldn't make it back to the octagon. He said that it happened, something like this happened when Bisping beat Rockhold, that he wasn't like there during the fight, but he was able to sprint back in time to put the belt on him, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know that. And then, of course, we know he wasn't at the press conference.
That's the Ariel Helwani stuff, UFC 199.
Oh, yeah, that is what happened. I forgot about that. You're the one that taught me that. I thought it was interesting that Dana brought that up himself. It's clear that, he has social media. He's been seeing what's been going on out there in the community and what people are saying. So take with that what you will. Dana's an interesting character, always has some fun sound bites. He was calling people idiots for thinking it was any sort of disrespect or slight to Francis. So, Noah, what were your thoughts on him bringing that up? And then, of course, if you had any other takeaways since you saw the whole interview, take it away.
Well, I didn't really, I might be wrong, Dominic, and I'm not trying to call you out here, but I didn't really hear an opinion from you as far as what your thoughts were on the actual comments, but that's okay. Let me drive here, and then you can come. Let me after.
Put the seatbelt on real quick.
Basically, I mean, look. I know it's cool if you're guys in our position, right? If you're guys in this space. If you're influencers in the
a talking head, yeah.
It's very popular to hate Dana White, to hate everything he does. And, I'm not saying there's not good reason to criticize the man. I know there is. Here, though, I don't buy it for a second. I mean, I don't. I mean, so you had something going on, so you couldn't be out there for the main event, which I kind of want to go back and watch the fight because I want to see if Dana's out there.
Oh, that's true. We do some investigating.
Investigative journalism right here.
Yeah, there you go.
But and maybe this incident happened at the end of the fight. Let's give him the benefit. Let's say it did. Mm-hmm. Well, was this incident so bad that Dana couldn't come to the post-fight press conference?
Right.
I don't know. I don't buy it for a second. I think that the UFC and Dana specifically were licking their wounds because they really thought Ciryl Gane was going to win this fight. And now that he didn't, they feel like they're probably backed into a corner where they're really they're either gonna have to pay up to Francis Ngannou, or they're going to have to let their heavyweight champion of the world walk and perhaps pursue other financial opportunities. And the worst part about this is that obviously Francis has to get surgery done on his knee. So that's, sucks,
9 months, I think he's out.
But let's be generous and say he was able to come back in 9 months. Well, it sounds like these negotiations might go even longer. So let's say it goes to full year where then his contract's up and he's allowed to. Sounds like we're going to have a heavyweight division that's going to be in a bit of flux this year.
Oh, yeah.
And we're probably going to have another interim belt introduced here over the summer. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, I agree.
But as far as the comments on this thing, it's like part of me, I was like, oh shit, Dana's going to, because I was like, there's no way they're going to go through this whole thing and not address it. There's no way. But Laura's like, I kind of feel bad for Laura being kind of put in this position. I always feel bad when it never looks good when Dana does these interviews with like her or Megan O'Leary because they're his employees.
Right.
So like, what are they going to do? Challenge him? I don't think so.
Exactly.
But I know that's not what she's there to do. And she did fine at what she was there to do. It's just, I felt bad because, she's not addressing the obvious elephant in the room, but she can't. She's his employee. Like, why would she do that? So, it's a BS. I don't buy it. I think it's like, you had all this time to come up with something, and like that was the best. Like to me, it came off like almost like he didn't care enough to like he was like, whatever. I've had something to do. Yeah. BS. What do you think?
I saw a meme on Twitter. It was the picture where Israel Adesanya in the Kelvin Gastelum fight said, "I'm prepared to die." So someone photoshopped Dana's face on Izzy, and they changed the words, and it said, "I'm prepared to lie." And that was one of the memes that came up that they like responded to it with. Listen, man, I tend to agree with you. I think it was just like you said, licking the wounds, right? The UFC is in this really weird spot with Francis, something that we've really never seen before in terms of being so out in the open and public. And Francis and his team aren't backing down. And now they have the leverage even more than they already did because he's still the champion. He took out your undefeated interim champ. So, I tend to believe that they were frustrated. Dana in specific went out, took the rest of the night off, and that's kind of what it was. And it's funny, you said, that you had a few days off, and that's what you had to come up with. So, again, if there was something that did come up in the backstage, we haven't really seen any reports of anything. Yeah. So, because, the aerial thing was eventually kind of made to where people knew what happened. So, if something comes out, I'll be curious. But I doubt anything would.
Ariel had gotten banned by the UFC.
Yeah.
And then this was all because he leaked, or I don't know if he would call it a leak. I don't know how he would work. But it was, the UFC said that he leaked the Brock Lesnar returning at UFC 200.
Before they played the promo.
And apparently that announcement was only, there was only a few people that knew of this announcement.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it was a bit like the scene in The Office where they all have the guns pointing at each other. The finger guns.
Yeah.
That's what it turned into with these execs with the UFC, where they were all pointing who leaked this information to Ariel. Yeah. So I'm sure there's more, but basically Dana banned him, and then the backlash was so severe that they unbanned him.
Yeah.
Ariel went on the MMA Hour and kind of shared his whole story. About 2 hours about his entire relationship with the UFC and Dana White up to that point. Because Ariel had worked for Fox before, during UFC broadcasts, a long tangled web of history with those two.
Yeah.
I will just mention, and I don't know if it really matters, but when we say, even though Dana's the one that did this, he didn't wrap the belt, he didn't go to the press conference, I really don't know if, Dana did have some nice things to say about Francis on this Q&A.
Yeah, he's never really been, too negative these past few weeks.
He said it was genius for Ngannou to go to the grappling, to wrestling, which is really what I thought was going to be the fallout. I thought Dana was going to kind of
use that.
I thought he was going to bury Francis a little bit. Be you want to get paid to go box, and then you put in this kind of performance where you're wrestling. And I really thought that was what we were going to get. It seemed just served up to him to just spike that,
Yes.
that's not at all what he did. I mean, pretty much everything he said about Francis was very. I mean, he said the biggest fight we could make this year is Francis versus John Jones.
Yep, and he said if they can make it happen, so
this is what you guys have to understand is that even though Dana is one of the most powerful guys in the UFC, he's a figurehead. He's the guy that handles the media. He promotes the fights, but he's not the guy that's in these contract negotiations anymore. Hunter Campbell tends to take most
he's
of the contract.
main one. Yeah.
He tends to take most of the contract negotiating. And because of that, I think Dana, Dana did this. Like, he was the one that didn't wrap the belt. He wasn't at the press conference. But everything kind of pulls me in a direction where I don't know if I don't think Dana specifically has any sort of venom at Francis Ngannou, but it almost seems like the powers that be in the UFC as a whole have a big problem with Francis.
Yeah.
And because of that, maybe Dana might even be having to do things he doesn't want to do. I don't know. Maybe he really did just do that in the heat of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird, though, that he keeps giving a lot of compliments to the champ. I don't know. It's a weird situation. And you know what? I didn't put this on here, I don't remember. Did we talk about the lawsuit thing?
We did on Monday or Friday. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Any other takeaways? I know you said you didn't watch it. Did you see anything else that stuck out to you about the interview?
No, I mean, not really. I know that they were talking about Tony versus Michael Chandler. They're looking to make that, which
apparently that's in talks. Which
take my money.
Sick.
Say less. Yeah.
Also, he did seem more interested in the idea of Henry Cejudo coming back and fighting either the winner of Jan Sterling or Volkanovski.
Really?
So when the question about what's the biggest fight you can make this year, or they asked about any super fights you could make, he said John Jones and Ngannou.
Yeah.
And said Henry Cejudo versus either Jan Sterling winner or Volkanovski.
See, that's interesting because literally just a week or so ago, he was bashing Henry for the idea of he's been retired.
Well, what he said was that he needs to get back in the USADA testing pool.
He said that with Laura?
Yes. He's like, It's like 6 months apparently.
Yeah.
So he needs to do that in order to have that. But he seemed much more open to the idea in this interview than he had just a week before, which I don't know.
That leads me to believe there's maybe been some talks.
That's what I was kind of wondering too.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting though, because if Korean Zombie goes out and beats Volkanovski, do you still do that fight?
Yeah.
Because it's so weird because I don't think Henry Cejudo has a great shot against Volkanovski. I'm just being honest. But Volkanovski is the smallest statured featherweight.
I wish I could count how many times we've discussed that matchup,
So, once you get the belt on a more normal-sized featherweight in terms of height and reach, like Korean Zombie, is it all of a sudden become just like a lopsided matchup for Henry Cejudo? It's so weird because Volkanovski's clearly the best featherweight in the world. He's probably one of the best featherweights of all time.
Yeah.
But he almost seems like the only matchup that Henry would have a chance, or that you could even buy Henry Cejudo having a chance with, because at least they're size-wise similar.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. It's a weird conundrum. But I will say, though, that I know how I've tried to hold that moral compass and say, damn it, I'm not going to, propose a fight when a guy hasn't fought in the division, but I can't deny that Henry Cejudo coming back and trying to get a third belt is...
That's...
I'm glad Korean Zombie got the opportunity.
Yes,
but
I agree.
If the winner fought Henry Cejudo, let's say if Max is off longer or whatever, I'm not going to be upset.
Exactly.
I'm not going to be upset at all.
100%.